Hi, foodies. Robert McCormick here. Recently, I had the immense pleasure of having a virtual sit down chat with Chef Rocky Durham. He's practically a celebrity in cooking circles in Santa Fe, with restaurants and the food community in general, also in New Mexico. He's actually a world renowned chef, a husband, and just an all around great guy. Recently, him and his wife, Emmy, dropped everything in Santa Fe and moved to the Ukraine to volunteer their efforts. And they're helping out any way they can over there. It's pretty incredible. We're all very proud of him, and it's a huge source of inspiration. So, please, without any further ado, sit down, and I hope you enjoy my chat with Chef Rocky Durham. Let's get to it. Hello, and welcome to an episode of Santa Fe Foodies. Today, we are very pleased, I mean, beyond pleased, to be speaking with Chef Rocky Durham, who's coming to us live from Lviv.
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 Yes.
Ukraine. So, wow, pretty incredible that
Yeah.
you're doing this this way. He's the founder and executive chef of the Santa Fe Culinary Academy, which closed a number of years ago. That was a project he worked on a long time ago. Was also a chef instructor for the Department of Defense, and also was an internationally syndicated columnist for the International Press Syndicate. He's owned and operated a string of restaurants in the UK, which I'm very interested to talk to you about that.
Mhm.
He's just a very beloved figure in the Santa Fe food scene.
Thank you.
We've never even met in person, and
No, we have
I
not.
didn't even
No.
really know about you. I mean, I kind of heard about you, but I didn't really know until I started Santa Fe Foodies, and everybody starts talking. Everybody starts talking about the chefs in town and all that, and then
Hmm.
you would always come up. And whenever your name came up,
Sure.
people,
Well, I am
people,
I'm a native Santa Fean. So, I was born on Palace Avenue in the old St. Vincent's Hospital there.
oh
And,
man, wow,
I started working in restaurants in the Santa Fe restaurant scene in the early 80s. And it put the hook in me, and I never looked back. And
wow,
now
that's
these dizzying heights.
all right. So before we get into like all the food stuff, why did you leave? What's going on? You were at Palace Prime, I believe,
That's right. I was the executive chef at Palace Prime before,
and they
well,
just
when the
opened.
war broke out here. So I
Yeah,
beg
they
your
had just
pardon?
opened. They had just opened right there, right when you were
They
there.
had, yeah, and their opening chef had to leave, so they were kind of without leadership in the kitchen for a few weeks before I came on board. And it was a great project, though. I loved it there. But however, when February 24th of last year rolled around, and the Russians uh, went full throttle on this war here in Ukraine, my wife and I knew that we had to be here. We had to do what we could to help out. We're both Russian linguists, so that was one of the things we thought we could. Our language skills might come in handy here, and it might make us a little bit more valuable of an asset in Ukraine. And there's, that can be argued whether it was or whether it wasn't, but it brought us over here, and we're just super proud to be working as humanitarian aid volunteers here in Ukraine.
Yeah, that's incredible. Do you have family roots in that part of the world?
No,
Is
I
that
do not. My family roots extend all the way to New Jersey.
Jersey?
Yeah. I
Where's your
was
from?
yeah. I was born in New Mexico. I like to. My mom is from Jersey. My dad was from New York, and sometimes I will joke with my mom, like if something political in Santa Fe happens and we have differing views, I will say, Mom, you're not even from New Mexico. You're like from Philadelphia or something. And I'm just teasing her because she was, of course, here, or rather in Santa Fe before I was.
Yeah, yeah, that's cool. I lived in Jersey City and in Greenwich Village for a number of years, by the way.
Hmm.
So
Nobody's
cool.
perfect.
Yeah, yeah. So so you're in Ukraine. You've decided you and your
Uh-huh.
wife decided to just drop everything and go over there. That's pretty incredible. Are you doing any cooking over there? Are you providing any type of culinary
Well,
services or?
not on the level. I mean, I cook every day, but really just for us. So, and we do. We've helped out with some dinners, feeding the internally displaced people from the east who are here in Lviv. So we have done a few things like that, but it's not our primary function. Basically,
Okay.
what we do is logistics. So we get stuff from point A, that they need at point B, and we figure out a way to make that happen. So
Okay.
we transport medical supplies, humanitarian aid, whatever's needed, food, water. There's a need for something that we can fill. So that's kind
great.
of what we
You're
do.
there
And
just to
however,
help out however.
that to my fellow chefs out there, because a lot of people who are not professional chefs might think that the job is about like making beautiful food. And that's actually, I wish it was just about that, but that's really, it's about logistics. It's about organization and leadership. And so those skills, those chef skills come into handy every day here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're managing skills and herding the cats in the kitchen.
That's correct.
And then dealing with them. That's I mean, that's just so impressive. And
Yeah.
that's just.
Have you ever seen those things on the internet where it says, explain what you do without telling me what you do, or however they phrase it?
Uh-huh.
Anyhow, so that, like, my profession, what I say is I turn chaos into order. That's what chefing is.
Yeah. It's a very challenging position, as most people know, especially people that follow food. They know how challenging having a restaurant is.
Yeah. Oh,
and
yeah.
everything that is entailed with it. So, all right. So, what was like? Do you remember like what were the first things that kind of started pulling you into becoming a chef, or even just cooking?
Yeah.
I mean, do you have memories
Well,
of that?
yeah, I do, but it wasn't, I don't have one of these stories where, my family, I would go into the kitchen with my grandmother and we'd learn the ways and we'd go to the garden. I didn't have that kind of, I was, not that we didn't have that kind of culture. We ate Roman meal bread. We sat around a table. We had a lot of casserole growing up. I don't remember exactly what was in it, but a lot of canned food, like cream of mushroom soup with canned tuna fish on some egg noodles and grated cheese on top. Delicious. Now, if my mom ever sees this, she's gonna argue, I cooked all the time. I made lovely, great food. And she did.
Yeah.
However, in my memory, it is a casserole. We sit around the table, we eat casserole. So I got into cooking, number one, just as a summer job. And there was a couple friends of mine who worked at this restaurant. And I was like, I want a job there so I can hang out with my friends. And I started working at this restaurant. There was great cooks there. And it was like being part of a club. And I loved the teamwork and camaraderie. And that's what kept me in the industry for 38 years professionally, was working on a crew. And then when I finally got to run my own crews, I just translated all the things that I loved about kitchen work into my leadership and management style. So I still love working on a team, and I still love these crazy degenerates who are back of house. I love front of house too. I love the restaurant people. These are my folks. But yeah, that's what kept me in. It wasn't even a love of food. I didn't love food until like a few years ago.
Yeah, that's
No,
cool.
that's a joke, but yeah,
It's so rock and roll, that's
Very much
that's
so.
what I love, because I'm a musician, and I'm a musician first and an artist 1st, and then a foodie or a home cook. I would never call myself
Right.
second, but there's so many similarities between all these creative mediums. So that's cool. So yeah, so your interest actually blossomed once you were working in the kitchen, and that's where really.
Absolutely. In fact, I worked as a line cook for 10 years before I went to culinary school. And when I did go to culinary school, I just wanted to go to get a piece of paper. I didn't expect to learn anything because I was this like sanctimonious line cook, and I figured 10 years in the kitchen, I knew everything. And I was a good cook. I could run a station, I could hold my own, but I had no idea how much there was to learn and how much information there is out there, and that I could study my whole life every day, read every book, and still not know anything.
Were these
So that was also inspirational in moving forward in my career.
Yeah, that's incredible. So you got a lot of basic training and skills.
That's
and
right.
then you went and studied.
Right. And if somebody was going to do it, or if somebody wanted to go to culinary school, one of the first pieces of advice I would give them is, well, I would ask, have you worked in a restaurant before? And if the answer is no, what you have to do first, it doesn't matter what job you have, but you have to go work in a restaurant for at least a year before you even think about it. And I don't mean like, a part-time on the weekend. I mean, you have to go there, work 40 plus hours. We call people who work 40 hours in the restaurant business, we call them part-timers. And so,
Yeah.
and see what it's really like before you want to make a professional commitment to it, because loving good food and loving to present beautiful food and feed guests is just a small part of it. If you like that and you're good at it, you might want to, like, why don't you go get an engineering degree first? And if you're still into it, you can follow the dark path to restaurants.
I mean, yeah, it's one of those careers where it's really, really beneficial that that you love it, that you're doing it because you love it.
Yeah, you have to do it. You have
Because
to do it.
otherwise you're just going to be miserable.
It's just too hard. There's easier ways to make money, that's for sure.
Yeah, it's
Yeah, and
definitely,
if you're doing it for the money, you should be a waiter, not a cook. That's where the money is, front of house.
or a bartender,
Yeah,
right?
exactly. Yeah, well, front of house anyway, guest facing, as we say.
Yeah, yeah. So where were these first gigs at?
There was a French place in Santa Fe. Well, you know where the Cowgirl Hall of Fame is. I see your post from there. So in the corner of the northeast corner of that little courtyard with of the Cowgirl Hall of Fame, the northeast corner used to be a little French restaurant called La Frogerie. And then after that, like a lot of people think, oh, it was the Nectarine or EK Moss. There were other French restaurants after that, but the first one was called La Frogerie. And it was run by this French couple, Natalie and Jean-Jacques Alexandre. Natalie was the front of house person. Jean-Jacques was in the kitchen with us, and they were like family. And I worked for them for like 3.5 years, starting when I was 14. So they were like surrogate parents as well, because during that time, growing up in Santa Fe, my life was, I was a dumb teenager, so.
Yeah.
I needed more. I needed lots of supervision, lots of parents.
Yes. Again, the creative part of the creative element in you also something that comes with artists often. So that's cool. Yeah, the Cowgirl, of course. And there's a lot of history with that building actually too, from what I've heard.
Oh, of course, yeah.
Yeah.
Anyhow, and then when they opened San Busco, which was now it's the School of Arts and Technology or whatever, right downtown on Montezuma. It used to be the shopping center, and now it's a charter school or something.
Yep.
When that opened first as San Busco, it was a converted mechanic like garage. When that was first opened as a little shopping center, La Frogerie moved from where it was on Guadalupe over to Montezuma, and it was there for a while. Anyhow, then I worked at the Zia Diner for years after that, keeping it right in that neighborhood. One of the best jobs I ever had, line cooking there, fantastic. I still dream about it.
Yeah, and that's a great place too. And there's so many places for a long time. I mean, Tomasitas, which used to be, I heard that Tomasitas used to actually be over towards where Tune-Up is, I think.
It was in the same building that Tune-Up is.
Yeah, same building. So that's pretty interesting, So cool, man. All right, so you started doing all that, and you finally got into cooking and all that. Where did you progress into having your own restaurant?
Well, that's not entirely accurate. So I've opened lots of restaurants, and I've worked all over the planet. Great, I'm very thankful for the opportunities that I've had. At one point, I was teaching a class in Santa Fe at the Santa Fe School of Cooking. Actually, this was 30 years ago, and maybe 28 years ago. And they, God, was it that long? Whew. No, it couldn't be. Anyhow, I was teaching a class there, and these folks from the UK were sitting. They just took the class because they thought it'd be fun to learn how to make tortillas and green chile or whatever we were making that day. So they sat there, and they were actually doing research for a small startup restaurant group in the UK. They didn't even have a name for it yet, but some of the investors sent them out to the American Southwest to do a little, reconnaissance. And they were going to places like, do you remember Z Tejas? And like these kind of, it's like Chipotle if you sat down at a table, and they had, it was colorful and probably a little bit, loud music and great drinks, those kind of places are what they wanted to open. Anyhow, they offered me a consulting gig. I ended up writing some menus for them. Then they brought me over to the UK to open the first restaurant and train the staff. And so they have this really great property in North London, and it was really, I loved the project. It was great. Anyhow, I loved it so much that what was eventually a 6-month contract became a 5-year gig. So I was there in the UK for 5 years, during which time we opened 8 restaurants. in 8 different British cities. So we weren't just in London. We were the northernmost was either Nottingham or Birmingham, all the way down to the south coast, Portsmouth, Brighton.
And each one with a different theme.
No. Here's the
All the
theme
same?
was, so you couldn't say Southwestern cuisine, because
Okay.
Southwestern cuisine in England, they think of Cornwall, they think of like, Devon and that area of Southwestern England. So
Uh-huh.
Southwestern was out. And if you say like if you say New Mexican, they don't hear the new, so they think it's a Mexican restaurant. And Mexican
Right.
food was done very poorly in the UK, and we didn't want to be associated with it. So
Uh-huh.
we said it had some protract. This is a long time ago. It was modern Southwest American something, I think. But we called it, the name of the restaurant was Santa Fe. So I insisted that it was called that, named after the city of my birth. So,
Right.
and we had cool logos, and it was really, we got a couple design awards. The food was never great, to be quite honest. I mean,
Did you have
but
chili?
it wasn't
Chili?
about the food. And it wasn't supposed to be traditional. And there was good stuff. I don't want to discredit the work that myself and my kitchen managers and all the staff did there. But it wasn't really about the food. It was about the experience. So we were selling the sizzle, if you will. We wanted people to come in. We had great music. We had beautiful dining rooms, but it was very accessible, like lots of color and cool materials. Was not fine dining. It was a little bit more expensive than just, a moderately priced sit-down restaurant, like a tune-up. But we had a great time doing it. I learned a ton. I made some huge disastrous errors that could not be fixed. And that's on me. But anyhow, at the end, when we wrapped up that project, what happened was a lot of our salary was paid out in share options. And when they sold the company, when we went public, we'd get to exercise those options. But then they did a sneaky thing where they undersold, and there was a certain mark that they had to hit with the value of the company for us to be able to get any benefit from our share options. So rather than selling it here, they sold it just here, and none of us could exercise our options. So although I wasn't owner per se, I never made a dime besides my salary, but that's okay. Once again, if you do it for the money, become a waiter. Yeah.
We all learn in life, right? And of course.
Oh yeah. And the
life,
best way to do it is like make mistakes. Do something you don't think you can do, fail miserably. Boy, is that a great way to learn.
I'm doing that right now with Santa Fe Foodies.
There you go. Yeah,
I mean, it all happened like that, right? So, yeah.
My father used to say, and I know he didn't coin this, but he who makes no mistakes does nothing. So
yeah, you've got to, I call it cliff diving. You just jump.
yeah.
You got to jump and just
Well,
go
here's
for it.
another good one. And anyone out there is willing to use this, you don't even have to give me credit. Failing upward, I call it.
This video is sponsored by local business High Garden Entertainment. Founded by author George R.R. Martin, the team at High Garden Entertainment operates the John Cocteau Cinema and Beastly Books in the Rail Yard District here in Santa Fe. If you're looking for a cool spot for $5 movies, artisanal snacks, charcuterie, drag shows, craft cocktails, rare and first edition books, and just an all-around good time, check out the John Cocteau Cinema and Beastly Books. Their links are in the description below, and when you stop by, tell them Santa Fe Foodie said hello. Please watch their movies, buy their books, drink their coffee. They are very supportive of our community and deserve some gratitude.
Yeah. So wait, did you have chili over there in the restaurants?
We imported some, and we had some grown for us, but it wasn't the same. It wasn't the same at all, and we knew it wasn't going to be, because one thing I know about traditional New Mexican food is that it has to be New Mexican, not only in style, like you have to treat the tortillas the right way, and it has to be constructed as such and presented thusly, but it has to have New Mexican ingredients. You cannot make New Mexican food without the ingredients. So unlike, like if we say French food, you can make a rendition of a classical French dish. However, I would like to have the conversation, if it does not have French ingredients, is it in fact French food? Much the same way where we say New Mexican food, because I would argue without New Mexican ingredients, we call it New Mexican style, perhaps, but you cannot call it New Mexican food without New Mexican ingredients. So no is the short answer.
How's your chili supply right now? Are we sending enough out there for you?
Oh, we're doing pretty good. Actually, I have some here. I'll show you right now. Watch this. I went to the market this morning and I got a really beautiful piece of pork. And this is my carne adobada in marinade. And I'll probably raise this off tomorrow or the next day. But
Oh, that's great, man. That's great.
Show and
So,
tell. Oh, and here's this for the rest of the foodies out there.
oh yeah, everybody
I
is
wore my
not
Blake's Lotaburger
for
t-shirt
the
for you.
non-New Mexicans. That's Blake's, which is a very, very famous hamburger chain that was out of New Mexico. I think they're owned by somebody in Texas now, I think.
Yeah, it makes sense if
A
they
very,
were.
very famous chain, very beloved,
Yeah.
and famous for the green
And
chili.
there's a lot of chatter on the Santa Fe Foodies page about Lotaburger, aka
Yeah, you see
Blake's.
that, right? It's very,
Oh
yeah,
yeah.
very
And I have
passionate.
to sometimes I have to bite my tongue. I of course never post anything, I don't if I don't like a post, I leave it alone. If I like a post or there's something I can offer, then I'll chime in. But when people heart like they're like Blake's isn't as good as it used to be, that's perhaps you feel that way and that sucks. Or maybe you're going to the wrong Blake's, but it just has such a nostalgic place in my
Yeah.
love of food. And when
Oh,
I
it
get
does.
back to Santa Fe, God save life, I'm getting a Blake's Lotaburger, and I like that one on Guadalupe, North Guadalupe.
Oh, okay. Guadalupe, you're right. Right. Yeah. Cool. Yeah. No, it's a very passionate topic, and yeah, I try to, I try to stay out of stuff. I'm always biting my tongue because I don't want to just. I try not to dominate the group. I want people to
Of
be able
course.
to talk, and I try to stay back, and but I jump in and talk too.
Gotcha.
So that's actually an interesting question about chili. Can you tell me? So chili, obviously, it's the New Mexican thing. It's treasured. It's like the
Mhm.
jewel in the crown here for New Mexicans for food culture. What are you? Can you tell me about your thoughts about chili?
Oh, yeah, sure.
Yeah, I mean,
I've
close.
studied this in depth. I'm actually a professional culinary anthropologist as well. I've been paid to,
Ah,
write and
okay.
speak about my knowledge of indigenous American crop cultivation is really where it begins,
Mhm.
and up to, contemporary applications. Um, so it is a magical thing. It is a superfood. There is no accounting for taste. But when it comes to buying New Mexican products, I do like to encourage people because there was a number of years that I was the chef ambassador for the New Mexico Department of Agriculture. So this is a subject close and dear to my heart. But I also like to encourage people, like when we talk green chili, when green chili comes up, everybody says hatch, 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 hatch. And hatch, I'm not disparaging any hatch green chili at all. I'm just, I would like to encourage people to explore the varied landscape and the different little appellations of chili growing communities throughout the state. And it's not like there's a split between north and south where south is green and north is red. Um, because a green chili will become a red chili, and a red chili was once a green chili. That's just how it is. Green chilies are unripe, red chilies are ripe and dry. Period. They come off the same plant. So um, but they're little hamlets all throughout the state, little pueblitos where you can go and they grow chili. Try them out. It's just like wine grapes. Any agricultural product are affected by the very same things that wine grapes are, which is soil, water, atmosphere, sunlight. What do you feed them? And that's what comes out. And when you have different soil, the soil in Chimayo is different from the soil in Alcalde. It's different from the soil in Socorro. It's different from the soil in Hatch. And so that's what these plants are made of. We might get similar sunlight. We might get slightly shorter or slightly longer growing seasons. But all these things affect the finished product. And if I do talk about wine grapes to the same regard, nobody doubts it. They're like, well, of course the side of the hill that the grapes were grown on makes a difference. And of course it's better in this little village than that little village. Same thing with apples, same things with pecans, same things with green chili or
Yeah,
red
a
chili.
lot of people don't realize that though.
Yeah.
Obviously, people that are really into food and all that, they understand that. But
Mhm.
the casual foodie doesn't understand how all the areas and the soil and everything makes a difference of it.
Well,
Yeah.
so explore that. It's such a wonderful, just give it. You can have your backup favorites that you can access year round. But when, get out there and explore a little bit.
Yeah, yeah. I just recently, so for me, I've only been here for 11 years. At one point, hopefully, people can refer to me as a New Mexican. I love it here. I love it.
Yeah. Oh,
So
yeah.
maybe that day will come. But the chili, it's taking me this long. I'm finally starting getting into it because of the group and all the conversations about it. So it's really finally teaching me an appreciation for it. I'm actually getting cravings for it now,
Oh, yeah.
like after a
Yeah.
gig in the morning or just a regular morning. I'm like, man,
My,
kind of feel like having
my
some
wife
chili.
and I have a rule over here because we can't get green chili. I mean, they have some fresh peppers, but the Ukrainians don't really eat spicy food by and large. You know, there are people here from like the Caucasus or from Central Asia who, you know, former Soviet republics who eat spicier food. So you can find chili peppers and you can find, you know, some spicy food here and there. But
Yeah.
when we've had some guests over for dinner and just using like a little black pepper, like if you get the pepper mill out and do a couple twists on the salad, they're like, whoa, 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 hey, take it easy there. You know, fireball, whoa.
Well, that's a good Italian cuisine. I recently learned that some Italian cuisine that some of the dishes or regions they really like using a lot of pepper, like black pepper on
Sure.
the dishes. Yeah. So
Okay, hold on. Let's back up. Since you brought up Italy, I want to back up to New Mexico for a second because when we talk about chefs, especially home cooks or chefs that came up in Italian households, fiercely proud of their food. I mean, we can all agree on fiercely proud, and I love that. I love it. They have
the
they're
spelling of
like
PRI.
they have to like it has to be done this way. This is the way it is done. There's no other way to do it, and it's their sound techniques. And they're not being, you know, fascist. They're being just they're adhering to tradition, and I love that. Okay,
I love it.
let's imagine Italian food before the influence of what we call the, you know, through the Columbian exchange, through these new world cultivars that were only being grown in the new world prior to the Europeans' arrival in what are now the Americas, their discovery of these, you know, fruits and vegetables, returning to Europe, presenting them. Some of them caught on, some of them did not. But okay, let's imagine, just picture in your head the most typical Italian dish. You don't have to say what it is, just like in your mind's eye. When you think Italian food, there's an image that pops up. Okay, so now you have to take that image and you have to, first of all, you have to remove tomatoes because there were no tomatoes used in Italy prior to this, what we call the Columbian exchange. Okay, so that's the first thing to go. The second one is going to be squash of all kinds, pumpkin and zucchini. And I think zucchini is an interesting one because in English or in American English, zucchini is the Italian word. But, you know, it came from America, went to Italy, they named it, got back over here, we call it by the Italian name. So no tomatoes, no peppers. Oh, did I say peppers? No peppers whatsoever. No stuffed peppers, no crushed chilies. In fact, there were no chilies anywhere else on planet Earth prior to the arrival of the Spaniards and Italians and Portuguese, the early explorers. So there no Thai food had chili peppers. They had spices, but not chilies.
Right.
They did not make it there. No potatoes. Okay. No beans. No fajol. You know, there was none of that. There was no, well, and then there was no chocolate and no vanilla.
Yeah.
Those are just a few that came from over here and didn't exist anywhere else on planet Earth. I find that amazing. So
It's like where
this is along the Rio Grande Valley, one of the richest, most historic food cultures on planet Earth, period.
Yeah, yeah, it's incredible, man. That's incredible. All right, so where do you go in town for your favorite green when you're in Santa Fe?
Oh, in Santa Fe, gosh.
Oh, with all due respect to everybody else in town, to the other places, this is out of due respect, but the fact of the matter is that
right. Well, I do have my favorites, and I would like to say that some of the, and it's not really based necessarily on quality, not that I don't love the product, but we have emotional attachments to restaurants as well. And there's reasons why we go to restaurants that we go to. And there's reasons why we don't go to restaurants that we don't, choose to support. There's reasons why, and it may have nothing to do with the quality of food or service. So let's just accept that before we get any further into this. And no, there is no right or wrong answer. That's the other great thing. So you can have whatever answer you want, and it's neither right nor wrong. It's yours, and there you have it. So, before, and this had a lot to do with like geography comes into play as well. Before I moved out here to Ukraine, my wife and I were living kind of in the Casa Solana area, just north of Casa Solana. And so the closest place to us was Valentina's in the Solana Center next to the co-op.
Uh-huh.
It's a little, family-owned restaurant in the corner. It's been a few things before. They do an excellent rendition of traditional New Mexican food, and they are owned by a family from Mexico, and it's mostly Mexicans and all Latinos, I think, who work there. So they do some Mexican food as well, and I can't remember exactly what region, but it is so good. Their sopapillas are fantastic. The service is so quick, and it might be discovered by now because, mind you, I've been over here in Ukraine for 15 months now. So, um, but it was like a little secret. Some people knew about it, and the people who knew about it loved it. And also the Valentina's. Check that place out if you
Yeah,
haven't.
no, isn't that the
They're
same
doing a
people that
great job.
own, and don't they own El Comal? Isn't that the same people?
I'm not sure. I don't know
I need
and
to
once
double
again,
check.
we started going there because of geography and proximity to the restaurant. But once that was like a go-to, especially during lockdown. We'd get
Mhm.
takeaway from there, and ooh, I
That's
ate my
cool.
weight in sopapillas.
Cool, cool.
They don't weigh a
Um,
lot.
yeah, I'm gonna probably go get some chili today now because now we're talking
Ugh.
about it. Getting a craving for
What's
it.
that?
Oh
Oh yeah.
God.
Okay,
Um,
and I have one other. So this one I'm going to talk about because of the emotional attachment that I have. Tia Sophia's was my father's favorite restaurant, and we would go there for breakfast. And I love the family. I love the family, and they're like my family. I've known them 40 plus years. And my father loved it there. And he would go and they always knew what he wanted. And he was very particular about like his coffee and just so. And he loved Tia Sophia's and they treated him like royalty. When he passed away, however, they dedicated a booth to him. So if you walk into Tia Sophia's and you're facing like the cash register, you can either go through the archway to the right or to the left. If you go left and start walking down the little service corridor there, you'll notice there's a booth with a silver plaque right behind the head, and it says Bart's booth. And Bart was my dad. And
oh,
they put that plaque on the booth when my dad passed away, to honor his memory. So how can I not go there? Plus the food is
that's
great. Breakfast burrito, bacon, Christmas, egg over easy on top.
yeah. To this
Done.
day, everybody
Yeah.
loves it. Tourists, locals, everybody loves it.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, such a great place. I like the
And
red
you're
and
bound to see the people you bump into there are so fun as well. You're bound to see a couple of former mayors,
Mhm.
and there's some like local politicos will hang out there. And then just you're going to see somebody at Tia Sophia's if you're a Santa Fean. And so sometimes you might decide not to go there because you don't want to see anybody.
Mhm. Yeah,
But yeah.
yeah. So cool, man. Oh God, there's so many things to talk about. What are your plan? I mean, you're in Ukraine right now. You're probably gonna stay there until
Well, what we say is, we're going to stay here till we're done, and that work might, we want to be here for the rebuild. There's so much work going on already rebuilding this great nation. There was when the war first broke out. There's a community just right outside of Kyiv, which has become, it's an infamous community. Bucha is the name of that, and that's where Russians went in and just killed everybody. And they brought in a bunch of Syrian mercenaries. So this is a dark story. Anyhow, they are already rebuilding Bucha. So Bucha's got like they've cleaned it up. They brought in bulldozers. Getting rid of all the rubble is such a huge undertaking. You cannot possibly imagine. And
right.
now you look at these streets, and they've got like a shot of a street from a year ago, and it's burned out and covered in rubble, and there's a tank on fire, and the buildings are collapsed. And it's just this beautiful. They have new trees growing on the streets, and everything is clean. And that's one thing I will say about the Ukrainians is they're into cleanliness. The cities here spotless. Nobody's like throwing cigarette butts on the streets or throwing a beer can out the window. It just doesn't happen. There's too much
That's
pride.
right. That's cool.
Yeah.
That's cool. All right. Well, man, I think we're gonna wind down,
Yeah,
but
we can always talk more.
yeah, I'd appreciate it. And Santa Fe misses you very much. And
Yeah. Well, thanks very much. Can I just say a couple things to the foodies here before
yes,
we take
and
off? This
yeah, and I
is
want to do something else too. I want to do a batter's box with you after you talk.
Okay, cool. So just I wanted to say like to the Santa Fe community out there that like it's really kind of an important vehicle of communication, the like Facebook, but in particular the Santa Fe Foodies page. Really, it's one of those things that makes me feel like I'm still connected to Santa Fe. So we're 7,000 miles away in a country at war. And sometimes it can be we feel very isolated, my wife and I. it's she and I in our organization, and then we have other people that we work with. But when it comes down to it, there's two of us, and we make all this stuff happen. But when we can connect with people back home, when there's an opportunity to celebrate things just like food, and through food, we realize that it's a birthday or a celebration of someone's life or a christening or what, just a fun night out with your friends. And we get to see photos of that. And it really does bring us back and it makes us feel connected. So thank you for that.
Yeah, well, thank you, and I love it too. And when I moved out here, um, yeah, community is very important to me,
Yeah,
and I know that food is a part of it.
absolutely.
So I'm happy that
Mhm.
it's all happened like that, and it has its
All
challenges.
right, batter up. What
All
you
right,
got
ready?
for me?
Santa Fe Foodies batter box. I'm just gonna come up with some random questions, and you gotta tell me, all right,
Right.
without really thinking
Sure.
about it. So, uh, red, green, or Christmas?
Christmas.
Favorite place in town for enchiladas?
Tomasitas.
Tomasitas. Okay. Favorite place for tacos?
Ooh, gosh, I might not have current enough intel to answer that question, so I'm not sure. And tacos really aren't what I go out for.
Okay.
Tacos are something I make at home.
Okay. Okay. Cool. Cool. Um, Current favorite fine dining level dish.
Level dish. Wow.
And
And
really
whenever
not.
it comes to fine dining, I like stuff that has like the fine dining part of it comes through technique and execution, not ridiculous garnishing and tweezer deployment. So
Mhm.
when it comes to, I want to see something that was really well crafted and something that was handmade and that their technique is flawless. So actually, God, there's so many there, and I'll just piss somebody off if I answer that because these are all my
No, but that's
friends.
okay. People just have, everybody's different. Everybody's different.
Yeah.
All right. Favorite place in town to go for a beer?
Uh, let's see. If I was going to go for a beer, well, it used to be El Farol back in the day, and then it
Yeah.
got too clean. I like a little bit. I like a little bit of grit when I go out for a beer. The Cowgirl had a nice beer selection, even though my tastes are not really complex when it comes to beer. I like it. I like it cold, and I like it. I like some effervescence in it. And if you can fulfill those two things, that's great.
Mhm.
But I'll enjoy an IPA or a craft beer, but that's not really my thing. I'll go with
Yeah.
Cowgirl. Good selection.
Cowgirl. Cowgirl. Okay.
Yeah,
Cool. Let's
cool
see here.
people.
Randomly. Oh God. Well, we know that you were going to say Tia Sophia's, but then I would ask also favorite place to go to for breakfast, or not favorite, but just place that
Oh,
you
you
like to
know
go
what
for.
I love? And it's like breakfast and lunch is Henry and the Fish right across the street from Tia Sophia's. I love that place. I love it. And I love the people there. Like whenever I go in, I feel like I want to weep happy tears and like hug people. It's so
Mhm.
good. Their food is excellent. Like make sure you get a cookie or something from their little bakery case they have there. And by the way, I wasn't speaking down to it, just petite. And
Yeah.
yeah, it's so good. Everybody go to Henry and the Fish. That's an order.
Yeah. I haven't been there yet. I've always passed
Oh,
by,
you
but
got to go. It's
yeah.
so good. And
Yeah.
they're so friendly. And it's one of these mom and pop operations where, they're doing it.
Yep, yep, and that's what I love too. By the way, and from living in New York City, and that mom and pop experience, I gained such an appreciation for it for all the mom and pops in New York City, and you have that here in town too.
Well,
All right,
it's hard to make a living out of food, and so you got to give it for these people who are, they're fully in, they're totally committed, and
yeah,
it reflected in their work, which is excellent.
yeah, it is. All right, man, let's wrap it up. I would love, some other point we'll come up with something else to talk about and
Sure.
get together.
Yeah.
And once again, thank you very much. Thank you for you and your wife going out there to Ukraine.
Yeah.
That's just amazing. And Santa Fe misses you, as you can tell whenever you post on
Yeah, I
social
miss you
media.
guys.
People
We'll
kind of,
we'll come back for a visit someday. We'll let you know, foodies. We'll throw a party. Yeah.
all right, buddy. All right, thank you.
All right. Yeah. All the best. Slava Ukraini.
Hey foodies, thanks for watching. Please make sure to like, subscribe, follow us. You can find us on our website at santafefoodiesnm.com, on all the different social platforms, TikTok, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, etc. Thanks so much for watching. Have a great day.